his clothes torn and his eyes filled with tears, while he was once a respected and successful man. How did he turn from the top to the bottom, and what did the president do when he got to know him? The end will shock you. Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel and write from where you are watching our story today. The weather was stiflingly hot in the streets of Ouagadougou, the vibrant capital of a country that has often known fatigue, Burkina Faso. Cars were speeding by, street vendors were calling out their wares, and dust was rising in the air with every step. Amidst this noise, a presidential motorcade was passing quietly, surrounded by guards in smart clothes and alert looks. President Ibrahim Traoré had just left a surprise visit to a local school, where he spoke to students and encouraged them to study and work for a better future. He seemed calm in the back seat of the air-conditioned black car, but his heart was always alert, examining every detail around him as the motorcade was preparing to depart. He noticed something on the side of the road that caught his attention strongly. It was a man sitting next to an old cracked wall. In front of him was a small metal cup that glistened in the sunlight. His body was thin, his clothes were torn and dirty, and his hair was dotted with scattered gray spots. His eyes were sunken like two wells dried up from life, yet they carried a bitter silence that was beyond words. People were passing by him without paying attention, as if he were nothing more than a part of the sidewalk. Ibrahim froze in place. He leaned forward a little from his seat and frowned deeply. There was something familiar in that exhausted face. He gestured to his guard sternly, saying, "Wait here." His tone brooked no objection. He opened the car door with a firm step and walked directly towards the man. The man raised his head slowly, his eyes flashing under the harsh sunlight. When his gaze fell on Ibrahim, he stared at him in astonishment. His voice came out hoarse and trembling. Ibrahim, the president, felt something pressing hard on his chest. He moved closer and looked at his exhausted features for a long time. Yes, he did not make a mistake. He whispered in a voice full of an astonishment. Musa stood up staggering, his knees shaking and his voice barely audible. Ibrahim reached out and firmly grabbed his shoulder, saying, "I haven't changed, but what happened to you?" Musa's eyes quickly filled with tears, then he tried to wipe them away shyly. He shook his head, saying, "It's a long story. I never imagined I would tell you. This isn't how it is." Ibrahim wanted to reject any excuses, but Musa looked at his bare feet hesitantly and whispered, "I don't deserve it. I'm not even qualified to sit in your car. You're my friend, and that's enough." Ibrahim grabbed his arm tightly and said in a deep voice that didn't accept discussion, "You're more than that. Get up with me now." After a few minutes, Musa was sitting in his headquarters. The scene was unreal to him. He took a shower for the first time in a long time, shaved his beard, and put on new, clean clothes. He sat in front of a large table with hot plates on it, smelling of delicious food. He began to eat slowly with trembling hands, as if he feared that the morsel would suddenly disappear from his mouth. Every piece he put in his mouth was mixed with gratitude and shyness. He sat down. Ibrahim was in front of him, watching him with eyes that did not hide the pain. When the plates were empty, he poured himself and 2 cups of juice. He placed the cup in front of his friend, then leaned back in the chair and said in a tender tone, "Okay, tell me. You were one of the brightest men I have ever known in my life. What brought you here?" Musa sighed slowly. He looked toward the window as if searching for the words, then returned his gaze to the ground. He lowered his voice as if he were telling a long-buried secret. He said, "It all started 3 years ago." He paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and then continued, "I was the principal of a school in Bobo Dioula's. I had a good reputation. I saved some money for my work and built a small house. I married a woman named Stella. At first, I lived with her for a few days. I thought it would be the beginning of a happy life, but something strange began to change. She became always silent on her phone, quick to get angry for the most trivial reason. I thought it was just the pressures of life. I ignored the signs." His voice trembled as he continued, "Then one day I returned home early. I entered the bedroom and saw her in my bed with another man." Ibrahim pulled on his fist, clenched his face burning with anger. "What did you do?" he asked sharply. Musa lowered his head, his lips trembling. "I couldn't go out." She was trembling with shock, and instead of apologizing, she followed me and said coldly, "It's over." She asked me to leave the house. She said that the other man is the one she loves now. Musa's voice trembled, while her eyes filled with tears. I built that house with my own hands, from my savings, but she took it from me with a forged law. A heavy silence fell in the room, and nothing could be heard except the sound of Musa's ragged breaths. Ibrahim raised his gaze towards him, his eyes boiling with anger and sadness together. He said slowly, "Muse, what you went through wasn't fair, but believe me, this is not the end." Musa sat silently for a few moments, the memories weighing on his chest more than ever. He took a deep breath before continuing, "After Stella left me, things didn't stop there. She took me to court. She stood before the judge, pretending to cry, and claiming that the house I built with my own effort was her own money. She presented forged papers, and the judge believed her. I was stunned. I found no one to defend me or listen to me. In one moment, I lost my home, which was my dream." Musa pressed his trembling hands as he continued. "It didn't stop there. My reputation fell. I lost my position as a school principal. I no longer had money to pay lawyers, and all my savings were gone. I no longer owned anything, no home, no job, no dignity." He lowered his head as he whispered, "I stayed with a friend for a while, but shame followed me everywhere. I couldn't face people, so I left. I ended up sleeping under bridges, asking strangers for food, and sometimes I spent the whole day without a bite to eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them laughing with the man who took my place." His eyes filled with tears, and he said in a broken voice, "I have become just a shadow, worthless and aimless. I wanted to die, Ibrahim. I wanted to end my life." A heavy silence fell in the hall. It was as if the walls themselves were crying with him. Ibrahim then slowly stood up from his chair. His tone was strong but warm. "Moss, you didn't deserve this. You are an honorable man, and what happened to you was nothing but injustice. Harsh, but believe me, your story will not end like this. I promise you that your life will change." Musa raised his head shyly, tears still shining in his eyes. He said in a trembling voice, "You still consider me your friend, even after you saw me like this?" Ibrahim approached and placed his hand firmly on his shoulder. "Musa, I have never stopped believing. Bless my friend, you have always been by my side since school. You shared books with me, protected me from bullies, and were the first to encourage me to dream. I will not abandon you now." Musa smiled a faint smile, but it was his first real smile in years. That night, he slept in the presidential palace for the first time on a warm bed under clean sheets. His sleep was deep, as if he had regained part of his humanity that he had lost in the streets. In the morning, he woke up to the sound of a soft knock on the door. An employee entered carrying a tray with warm bread, fried eggs, and a cup of tea. The employee smiled and said, "Good morning, Mr. President. He asked me to serve you." Musa sat on the bed, astonished by the word "sir," which he had not heard for a long time. He muttered while eating, "Yesterday I was a beggar, and today I am a guest in the presidential palace. What will tomorrow bring?" After breakfast, he went out to the garden where Ibrahim was waiting for him, wearing simple clothes, far from official protocols. They sat together among the trees and the gentle breeze. Ibrahim said seriously, "Your story broke my heart, Musa, but I will not let you fall again." Musa whispered, "I did not mean to bring trouble to your house." Ibrahim smiled and answered, "You didn't bring problems, you brought the truth, and the truth should be a new beginning." Then he added in a firm voice, "I have arranged everything for you. This morning you will visit a doctor to examine you and give you the necessary treatment, and after that there is a place I want to take you to." Those words were like the first ray of a new sun in Musa's life, a life he did not expect to start again after he thought it was over. Ibrahim led his friend Musa outside the capital, away from the noise and crowds until they arrived at a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. The car stopped in front of a beautiful small house with cream-colored walls interspersed with brown touches, surrounded by a carefully arranged garden full of flowers and shade trees. Musa stood in amazement, contemplating the place as if he was seeing a dream materializing before his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Oh God, how beautiful this house is! Whose is it?" Ibrahim smiled a wide smile and answered confidently, "It is yours, Musa." Musa froze in place, his mind refusing to believe what he was hearing. He muttered, confused, "No, this is too much for me. I do not deserve it." Ibrahim approached him and put his hand on his shoulder. "Yes, you deserve this house. It's paid for in full, and no one can take it away from you. You've suffered enough. Now it's time for you to start over." Musa's eyes welled with tears as he whispered, "But why are you doing all this for me?" Ibrahim looked straight into his eyes and said firmly, "Because I remember who you are. You were my true friend. You gave me books when I had nothing. You stood by me when no one else dared. You believed in me before I believed in myself. Today it's my turn to repay you." Musa's hands trembled as he hesitantly entered the house. Inside, he found a warm living room with a comfortable sofa, a tidy kitchen, a stylish bedroom, and even a small office with a bookshelf. Everything seemed to be made especially for him. Ibrahim said with a proud smile, "I didn't just settle for the house. I've opened a small library and a school supplies store next to one of the high schools. You'll run the place yourself. I'll cover all the costs for the first year, and after that, it'll depend on your success." Musa sat on the nearest chair, his hands shaking, and the tears flowed without stopping, but this time they weren't tears of pain, but tears of hope. He said in a hoarse voice, "I thought my life was over, but you gave me a new life." During the following weeks, Musa's life began to change in a way he never expected. He took over the management of the store with enthusiasm and discipline, carefully arranging the shelves and providing everything the students needed, such as pens, notebooks, and books. The place quickly became well known in the neighborhood. Students did not only come to buy supplies, but some of them sat with him to ask him about academic problems or life advice. Musa did not turn anyone away. He helped them with a sincere smile, explaining math problems to them or guiding them in their studies. One day, he said to a young boy, "Memorization alone is not enough, my son. Understand the steps and you will find the solution." The news spread quickly, and people in the neighborhood began calling him again Professor Musa. He was no longer the forgotten beggar on the sidewalk, but the respected man who rose from nothing. One evening, while he was arranging the books on the shelves, he heard a faint voice from behind him calling his name. He turned slowly and froze in place, almost falling from his hand. Stella, his ex-wife, was standing at the door of the store. Her face was pale, her clothes were worn, her jewelry was gone, and she was holding a small suitcase. She looked at him with teary eyes and said in a weak voice, "Moss, can we talk?" This meeting was the beginning of a new test for Moss, a test that would determine whether the past would come back to knock on his door or if he would move forward strongly towards his new future. Moss stood in front of Stella, looking at her for a long time in silence. She was the same woman who had once left him without mercy, but now she looked exhausted, broken, and without luster. He said to her very calmly, "What do you want, Stella?" Her tears flowed quickly, and she said, "I have no place to go. The man I chose instead of you sold our house, took my money, and ran away with another woman. I lost everything." She stretched out her hand, as if to beg, "Please, Moses, I lost a small room for a few days." Moses breathed deeply. The past, with all its wounds, struggled inside him with the present, full of new dignity. He looked at her with a steady gaze, and said, "I forgave you a long time ago, but my life is no longer yours. I chose your path one day. And now I have chosen my path. I cannot go back." She lowered her head shyly and silently while Moses turned and went back to his shop, his heart pounding, but this time it did not break. The decision was difficult, but he felt an unfamiliar strength inside him. That night Moses called Ibrahim and told him what had happened. The president smiled into the phone and said, "You have regained your dignity, Moses. This is the greatest victory." The days passed and the shop flourished. More Moses began to receive students and teachers, not just as customers, but as friends. He was always listening, helping and extending a helping hand. He became a symbol of hope in the neighborhood. A man he knew the fall, but he chose to rise. Then came Grace, the kind teacher who taught the children of the neighborhood. Her frequent visits to the store turned into long conversations, then into shared meals, until Moss realized that he had found in her heart what he had never found before: kindness, respect, and warmth. With the passage of time, her little daughter, Rachel, became close to him. He saw her as a daughter he had never given birth to. On a golden evening, Moss sat with Grace and Rachel were in a quiet garden. He got down on one knee and pulled out a simple ring. He said, "I don't have much to offer, but I have love, respect, and peace. Will you marry me?" Grace's eyes filled with tears and she whispered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Rachel laughed and ran to hug them both. That day was the beginning of a new chapter in Moss's life. He was no longer the man who lost everything, but the man who gained everything back: love, family, work, and dignity. His story was a living lesson for anyone who thinks that falling is the end. The truth is that falling is only the beginning of rising. My dear viewers, if Moss's story inspired you, don't forget to support us by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and activating the bell to receive all that is new. Write to us in the comments. From where are you following our story today?
We bring you raw,
Thank you for
unfiltered
standing with
updates
us,
on Ibrahim
for
Traoré,
standing with the
President
truth,
of Burkina
and for
Faso,
standing with
the man
President
challenging
Ibrahim
the global
Traoré.
system.
In these
If you
trying
believe in
times,
truth,
your voice is
power,
powerful.
and a rising
Don't
Africa,
just watch.
this is your
Be part
home.
of the movement.
Subscribe now.
Subscribe to stay
Stand tall.
updated.
Stay
Share
woke.
to awaken
Young
others. And
patriots,
head to the
where
comment
revolution
section.
lives.
Tell us how you feel, what you believe, and what Africa means to you. Together we are louder. Together we